what we do is that we combine clinical excellence with a spiritual perspective, a soulful perspective. As it's an integrative training, we bring in theoretical material from Jungians, Gestaltists and psychodynamic. But it's about the way the learning happens, I think, that's really most important, that we call it inside-out learning, so that we start with the individual's own experience, and a lot of the teaching is experiential, i.e. there are exercises and visualizations and enactments which evoke the emotional material from the students. And then the theory is brought in afterwards, so that the theory isn't just, got with the head, it's got throughout.
The thing that's very unique about revision is it focuses on you as an individual and your own story and your own wounding, if you like.
It is very much the soulful way of teaching the counselling with the transpersonal approach that really appealed to me.
And that led us away from thinking of a spiritual training towards a training that really emphasised what Keats calls the valley of soul making, where suffering is a very important ingredient, and working with suffering to temper and transform suffering, as Jung says, transform the bitterness of salt into the wisdom of salt. So I feel that's a very important process.
That quite often my sense is that when people talk about stories, that there's something that's happening somewhere else, whereas my sense was that they were alive and in the room. We were living these stories out as well as living our everyday lives out, and that somehow that really grounded something for me and also freed something up. It freed me up to be all of who I was.
It's not just adding on little bits that we've learned from elsewhere, that we have Jungian analysts and Gestalt therapists as core members of the training. Well, I think the coherence of that vision is something that's taken 25 years to develop. It's taken that time for that vision to mature into a practical working organisation.
When I talk, now that I'm in placements elsewhere and working with other training counsellors from other establishments, and I tell them about the interpersonal group, and that it's an opportunity for us to talk to each other about issues we have with one another that have been happening over a month period perhaps. They're always very surprised when I tell them just how heated and exciting and challenging it can be. They're amazed and they say, we wish you were doing it. And I remember thinking how afraid I was, thinking, well, there's going to be nothing for me to talk about in there. But the things that come up are such a surprise, and it's wonderful, as you were saying, to be able to have this really strong interaction with someone, speak from the heart about things that can be quite emotional, and then be able to go out and have a cup of tea together and laugh about it. I think it's a very unique way of training here. I think that's what makes revision quite special.
Yeah.
Most modern therapies emphasise the relationship, and there's a lot of research that's shown that whatever the difference in the school, it's the quality of the relationship that is most important in giving a good quality to the client. Maybe part of our difference is in this notion of the synergetic field. So we're talking about a creative approach to working with the relationship, so that the therapist and the client are in a mutual, aiming to develop a more mutual relationship. As a therapist, I'm also in a healing process. One of the key ideas we're honouring and working with and aligning with is the wounded healer. And the wounded healer means that I acknowledge that I'm wounded and I'm in a mutual healing process. It's not that I'm the expert and you're the one with who's got all the inferior qualities that you're coming to me to find out how to work with. That there's a recognition that we're both in this together, and that allows a certain degree of, potentially, of intimacy and creativity that can't happen when you've got all the illness and you've got all the problems and I'm the expert.
The revision is safe and dangerous enough for me to actually learn what I really need to learn.
We probably ask a lot of our students, and mostly people rise to the challenge and welcome it, even though there may be certain points along the way when they say, my God, what have I got myself into?